You know the room. Jesus sits at the center of one long table. 12 men form a neat row. The chairs face us. The cloth is white. Every plate seems ready for a painting. It is a great work of art. It is also about 1500 years late. So take the chairs away. Lower the table. Remove the modern Seder plate. Now the room is almost empty. What can the evidence put back? What was the Last Supper really like? We cannot rebuild every seat or every dish. But the clues can bring back the room in layers. What we know. What is likely. And what stays open. Start with the walls. Mark and Luke say the disciples found a large upper room. It was already prepared. That gives us a room above the ground floor, inside the city, with space for the group. It does not give us a floor plan. The meal began in the evening. John tells us that Judas went out, and it was night. Matthew and Mark place Jesus with the 12. Luke calls them the apostles. Bread enters the room. So does a cup. A shared dish appears when Jesus speaks about the one who will betray him. Matthew and Mark say the group sang before they left. Those are strong pieces. Night. A meal. The disciples. Bread. A cup. Shared food. Betrayal. But the bodies tell us something the walls cannot. In John, Jesus gets up during supper and washes the disciples' feet. Later, one disciple is close enough to lean toward Jesus. Jesus can dip a small piece of food and hand it straight to Judas. This is not a row of people posing for us. They are close. Their feet are open to the room. Food moves by hand. The meal words used by the Gospels also fit people taking their places in a reclining meal. That makes a high table with upright chairs look unlikely. And this is where a very neat answer often takes over. The Triclinium. A triclinium was a formal Roman dining room with couches around 3 sides. People reclined, ate from shared food, and left one side open for service. It can explain the feet, the leaning, and the close reach between diners. We also know these rooms existed in Roman Palestine. A scholar named Anthony Keddie studied their place in local life. So did Jesus use one? Maybe. But the same evidence carries a warning. The clearest triclinia are tied to rich homes and elite spaces. We have never found the room of this meal. And the gospel words do not draw 3 couches in AU. Matthew Gray offers a simpler model. Most people ate in shared home spaces, using mats, low places, plain pots, and common bowls. Jesus and his disciples fit that social world better than a Roman dinner party. That model explains a lot. It explains the shared dish. It explains the close bodies. It also explains why the texts care about the bread and cup, but say nothing about fine furniture. Still, the host is unknown. Mark and Luke call the upper room large and prepared. It may have been more than a poor family's usual room. So the fair answer is not, they lay on this exact couch. It is this. They were likely close together, in a posture that fit reclining or low shared dining. A simple home setting is the best main picture. A triclinium stays possible. The exact layout stays open. Put that scene on the ground. Not as a photo. As a careful model. A dim room. Bodies near one another. A plain cup passing between hands. Bread being broken. One bowl within reach. Feet turned away from the food. No gold cup. No fixed seat labels. No perfect row. Now look at the meal itself. Bread is certain. A cup is certain. The Gospels call its drink the fruit of the vine, so wine is the clear likely answer. A common bowl or dish is certain. What was in that dish is not. John gives us a dipped piece of food. He never tells us what it was dipped into. What about lamb? Matthew, Mark, and Luke present the meal as Passover. In that frame, the disciples prepared the Passover when the sacrifice was made. Unleavened bread and a paschal sacrifice belong naturally in that scene. But no gospel shows Jesus eating lamb at the table. That does not mean there was no lamb. It means we should label it correctly. Likely in the synoptic Passover scene. Not shown on the plate. Bitter herbs are possible for the same reason. Fish, eggs, dates, lentils, and a full modern Seder plate may fit someone's later picture. They do not come from this meal's record. The honest menu is short. Bread. A cup. Wine, most likely. Shared food with unknown contents. Then a few Passover items whose strength depends on which gospel clock we follow. That clock matters because Passover in the 1st century was not just a family dinner. Exodus ties it to sacrifice, unleavened bread, bitter herbs, and memory. Deuteronomy ties sacrifice to the place chosen for worship. Writers near the time of Jesus describe people forming groups and eating in homes after sacrifice at the temple. An old Jewish work called Jubilees also knows a Passover meal with wine and praise. So wine, song, shared food, and meaning did not have to wait for a much later age. Joel Marcus argues that some order and food meaning had roots before the temple fell. That helps explain why Jesus can give new meaning to bread and cup in a Passover frame. But Jonathan Klawans and Baruch Bokser press the key limit. The full Seder known from later rabbinic texts grew over time. The Mishnah describes reclining, 4 cups, questions, foods, and praise. Yet it was put into written form long after Jesus. Some parts may be old. The full later script is not a recording of this night. So yes, the synoptic meal has deep Passover meaning. No, we cannot number 4 gospel cups or place a modern Seder plate in front of Jesus as fact. And now we reach the clue that splits the whole room in two. Matthew, Mark, and Luke call the meal Passover. John places the supper before Passover. After the meal in John, some leaders still plan to eat the Passover. John also places Jesus' death on the day of preparation. The 2 clocks do not line up by themselves. There are ways people try to join them. Some use wider meanings for the feast words. Some suggest different calendars. Others think John kept the better date while filling the story with Passover meaning. Those ideas may help. None lets us say the 4 Gospels simply give the same date. And the date changes the plate. If the synoptic frame guides the scene, unleavened bread and the paschal sacrifice are likely. If John's clock guides the date, the official Passover meal is still ahead. The disagreement is not a small note at the edge. It sets a limit on what we can put in the center. If you like rebuilding Bible scenes one clue at a time, subscribe. We have more rooms to open. So let us rebuild this one. In the first layer, place what we know. Night. Jesus and the narrated group of disciples. Bread. A cup. Food shared from close range. A betrayal named inside the meal. In the next layer, place what is likely. Bodies close together. A posture that fits reclining. Shared vessels. A modest dining space rather than Leonardo's high table. Then keep the last layer open. The exact furniture. The full menu. The seat of Judas. The name and seat of the beloved disciple. The number of cups. The address. Even the Passover date. This room is less neat than the painting. It is also more human. Hands reach into the same space. A cup passes. Feet need washing. One friend leans close to ask a hard question. Another takes a piece of food and walks into the night. So what was the Last Supper really like? A close nighttime meal shaped by bread, wine, shared food, betrayal, and Passover meaning. The synoptics call it Passover. John places it before Passover. A simple shared setting is more likely than the long Renaissance table, while the exact room still escapes us. Take away the long table, and the meal does not get smaller. It gets closer.